So Marina Mabrey has responded to the to everything that's going on.
Marina Mabrey just looked like she was just unhinged out there after looking at this, man.
The game between the Sun and the Fever turned into complete chaos. There were 6 technical fouls, 3 players got ejected, and 2 flagrant fouls were called, all in one crazy night. In the middle of it all, one moment really got people talking online. Marina Mabrey shoved Clark hard and knocked her to the ground for no clear reason. Somehow, she didn't get kicked out of the game, but Sophie Cunningham was thrown out right away, and fans were quick to point out how unfair that seemed.
Are here the night after WNBA fight night. Sophie Cunningham putting JC Sheldon in a clinch. Marina Mabrey targeting Clark.
If you thought you were already angry, just wait until you hear how Mabry reacted after the incident. Do you think the league should strictly enforce the rules and suspend Mabry? Let us know in the comments below. Let's go.
All they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation is...
After all the dust settled, the league quietly changed Mabry's foul to a flagrant 2. There was no press release, no big announcement, just a quiet update on the league's website. Now, the big question is, how did the referees miss it during the game? And why did it take a wave of outrage for the league to respond? Even more importantly, will Mabry be suspended like the commentators strongly suggested during the broadcast?
So, like, there are 4 players fined in that game. 4 players fined in that game, but the referees, the scariest part about all this is that the referees came out with their report. They came out with their report and said, the contact made by Mabry did not rise to the level of ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant 2 penalty. And it was given as a tech.
We're going to dive into how and why the WNBA went against its own referees, and whether that decision helped the situation or just made it worse. But before we get into all that, let's break down the shove that started the whole firestorm.
A lot of it is centered around the last 46 seconds where Sophie Cunningham hard fouls JC Sheldon. She gets ejected, JC gets ejected, does Lindsay? I think Lindsay gets ejected. And in watching the broadcast, even the broadcasters at the time mentioned if they would have just ejected Marina Mabrey, this probably wouldn't have happened.
Let's call it what it was, a full-speed blindside hit. Clark didn't even see it coming. She was just playing the game, turned her head, and then bam, Mabry launched her to the floor. This wasn't just another hard foul. It felt personal. The crowd exploded, and so did the commentators. Everyone expected a flagrant 2, maybe even an immediate ejection. But no, Mabry only got a basic technical foul, and the game went on like nothing had happened. The broadcasters were stunned, the players were furious, and fans were absolutely losing it.
So Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabrey doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. So Caitlin dribbles. Look at how far she is away from the ball, by the way. Look at how far she is away from the ball. Like, that's literally, she's nowhere near the ball. She just jumps at her face. And then she belly bumps Caitlin. Caitlin retaliates by shoving in an unsportsmanlike manner, according to the referees. And then Marina Mabrey just comes from nowhere.
Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Social media exploded with people asking the same question. How is she still in the game? What were the refs even looking at? And it wasn't just Clark fans, neutral viewers, former players, and analysts all agreed the officials were losing control of the game. Things got even more frustrating when people looked at the other calls. Sophie Cunningham was ejected on the spot for a hard play that didn't even come close to what Mabry did.
At this angle, you can see just how far JC Sheldon is away from the ball. The ball's here. She's hitting Caitlin Clark in the face here. If you guys are looking at my cursor. I'm sorry I can't make this bigger. My cursor. She hits Caitlin Clark here. The ball's here. The ball is 3 feet away from Caitlin Clark's face. And she just targets the face. She targets the face. Like, I don't know if there's any other way to describe it. Like, this is clearly, she just lunged at her face. She went nowhere near the ball. She lunges forward. She absolutely, positively, zero doubts about it, lunges at Caitlin Clark's face.
The inconsistencies were impossible to ignore. Sophie was thrown out right away, while Mabrey stayed in the game after what was clearly a more reckless and dangerous foul. The whole situation screamed unfair. Rule enforcement.
I don't see how you can say that any other way. She literally lunged at her face. And then Caitlin's there walking away, and she belly bumps her. Like, by the way, Caitlin with the shove. Caitlin does not move JC Sheldon. If you look at this angle, you can see Caitlin Clark does not move JC Sheldon. They're like, Caitlin shoved Sheldon. Caitlin literally, JC Sheldon's still moving forward. So JC Sheldon is the one who initiates the contact, and
people kept speaking up, asking, are the refs just spinning a wheel before each whistle? Because if the same rules were applied to everyone, there's no way Mabrey should have been allowed to keep playing. But the inconsistencies didn't stop when the game ended. That's when the WNBA's damage control began.
So yeah, she ended up stating this: Marina Mabrey's technical from last night's Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2. Oh man, the league told ESPN a flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 46 seconds to play.
That's right. The league later came out and said, actually, we've upgraded it to a flagrant 2. Let's be real. That's basically their way of saying, oops, our refs messed up. If they had made that call during the game, Mabrey would have been ejected, no questions asked. Fans saw this as the league admitting the officials didn't just make a small mistake. They completely missed the mark. Now, people are calling for Sophie Cunningham's ejection to be overturned. Others are flooding Marina Mabrey's posts with comments. The league said, Mabrey's shove met the definition of excessive and unnecessary force. Okay, cool, but why wasn't that clear during the game? The refs had the best view in the house, no blind spots. Even someone watching with one eye closed could tell it crossed the line, which brings up a bigger question. Was this just one bad call, or is the WNBA dealing with a full-blown officiating crisis?
People are calling for Sophie Cunningham's ejection from the league. People are commenting under Marina Mabrey stuff.
And it wasn't just that one moment. Don't forget, Caitlin Clark got hit with a technical for simply reacting after someone scratched her in the eye. Sophie Cunningham got fined and flagged for a play that didn't look nearly as rough as Mabrey's. It felt like every whistle was coming from a different rulebook. If Mabrey had been ejected when she should have been, the whole game would have had a different tone. Instead, we got a late fix that came after the damage was already done.
It is kind of, frustrating to see the hypocrisy everywhere in all the spaces when it comes to the Indiana Fever, because I'm seeing the same people saying, and the same people in the media, the same people in social media, which social media doesn't really count and it shouldn't, but these are filtering to people in the mainstream media saying it was a physical league last season to Sophie should be ejected and her spot should be considered in the league, and calling her out on all these physical plays that were totally excusable until the Indiana Fever do that.
Now everyone's asking the same thing. How are players and fans supposed to trust what's happening on the court when the rules seem to change from minute to minute? The gap between what the refs call in real time and what the league decides. After reviewing the plays is getting wider. And here's the real kicker. The refs and the league can't even agree on what counts as a flagrant foul. That's not just a bad look. It's a full-on credibility crisis. So let's get to the point. Who's really responsible for this mess? The refs making split-second decisions, or the league stepping in only after fans caused an uproar? All Eyes quickly turned to referee Ashley Gloss, who explained after the game that Marina Mabrey's shove didn't meet the standard for a flagrant 2 or an ejection. That's why Mabrey got only a technical and stayed in the game. Gloss stood by her call, saying that in the moment, it didn't meet the threshold.
There's no way y'all coming after the game and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant 2. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right, during the game, go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the nonsense.
But less than 24 hours later, the WNBA quietly overruled its own officiating crew, upgrading the foul to a flagrant 2. That flip-flop says a lot. It's not just a correction, it's a public contradiction. And now the big question is echoing everywhere. How does a play go from not worth an ejection to ejection-level violence in just a few hours?
Contact made by Mabry did not rise to the level of an ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty 2.
Social media exploded right away. Clips were everywhere with captions like, "What did these refs even see?" Fans and analysts were trying to make sense of the huge difference in judgment. It wasn't just Ashley Gloss's crew being questioned. It was the entire league. Is the WNBA really standing by its rules, or are they changing calls just to respond to public backlash? Are we watching a system that corrects itself, or one that's chasing headlines and drama?
Out with this statement saying, yeah, it was a flagrant 2.
The game was already a powder keg, 6 technicals, 3 ejections, and a storm of hard fouls. But one of the strangest moments was the technical foul on Caitlin Clark. She was called for unsportsmanlike behavior after she instinctively reacted to getting poked in the eye and bumped during a dead ball by J.C. Sheldon.
So this just clearly shows me the referees need some schooling, man. Okay? They need some schooling. You had these referees out here clueless, man. And I was wondering what was taking them so long to call the right call. I swear to you, man, we lived 2 lifetimes before they came back and said what they needed to say about the nonsense that happened.
The game was already a powder keg, 6 technicals, 3 ejections, and a storm of hard fouls. But one of the strangest moments was the technical foul on Caitlin Clark. She was called for unsportsmanlike behavior after she instinctively reacted to getting poked in the eye and bumped during a dead ball by J.C. Sheldon.
The question was, why did Caitlin Clark get a technical foul? She ended up coming back and saying, after the foul by Sheldon, Clark reacted in an unsportsmanlike manner towards Sheldon. Huh?
How does that even compare to a deliberate blindside shove? Then there's Sophie Cunningham's ejection, a well-timed hard foul that was called in real time and later confirmed with a fine. Meanwhile, Mabrey's much more obvious foul was downplayed during the game, only for the league to quietly upgrade it afterward.
Now the flagrant was Sophie. I'm still questioning that. I'm still questioning because it looked like a take foul, fam. And don't tell me y'all never seen somebody grab LeBron James, like hold him like both of his arms, try to hold him down. He fights through it, still makes the bucket. Don't tell me y'all never seen.
That kind of inconsistency is what adds fuel to the fire. How can one player be ejected for a standard hard foul while another stays in the game after a play that looked way more violent? The result? A growing gap in trust between fans, coaches, players, and now even the officials. The difference from one call to the next, especially within the same game, raises serious questions about who's really in charge out there.
At the end of the day, as long as bad referees are allowed to do whatever the hell they want to do, as long as bad referees can get away with every single thing they want and can get away with stuff like this, nothing will ever change.
What kind of pressure are referees under when they have to make split-second calls in front of thousands in the arena and hundreds of thousands watching at home? Referee Ashley Gloss said she didn't think Mabrey's shove was a flagrant in the foul. moment, but watching the replay, it looked textbook. The game had high stakes, Commissioner's Cup implications, Caitlin Clark's rising stardom, and a game already packed with technical fouls, but none of that should excuse such a clear mistake. Referee. Accountability isn't just a buzzword, it's the foundation of a fair and competitive game.
Good that the refs did something about it, but they should have did something about it way earlier. They could have prevented all of this. They could have prevented every bit of this, but they chose not to.
And let's not ignore the elephant in the room, trust. If missed or weak calls are allowed during the game, only to be upgraded later, what are fans, players, and coaches supposed to believe in? How do you expect teams to react in real time? When the rules seem to shift after the fact, it doesn't just shake trust in officiating, it sends the message that accountability is optional, reactive, and based on social media outrage. Then there's the mental impact on players like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Caitlin simply reacts after being poked in the eye, a totally natural response, and gets hit with a technical. Meanwhile, Mabrey's dangerous shove goes unpunished until much later. That kind of inconsistency damages the entire spirit of competition. Is the league saying it's okay to take a cheap shot at a rising star as long as it's handled after the game? Because if so, that's a dangerous precedent, and it's one that could change the future of how players compete and how games are decided.
But Marina Mabrey commented on TikTok about the whole situation, and this is what she said. Every time they comment, I make dollars.
And what about Marina Mabrey herself? Did she back down under the spotlight? Not at all. She leaned into it, posting a viral TikTok after the game where she joked, "Every time they comment, I make dollars." No remorse. No dodging the issue. Just pure attitude and self-awareness. She's turning controversy into a brand. She's not backing down. She's flipping the script. It's bold, maybe even reckless, but it's honest. Fans either love it or hate it, but no one can deny. The results? Attention, buzz, and yes, even boosted streaming numbers.
If you guys don't know about Sophie Cunningham and Marina Mabrey, who these two people are, like, you need to just know the lore. Like, Marina Mabrey, this is how Dejanay calls Marina Mabrey her evil twin.
This isn't just a one-time incident. It's part of a clear pattern. Mabrey's reputation in the league is built on aggressive, physical defense, sometimes crossing the line into dirty play. Now fans boo the moment she touches the ball. And sometimes the same goes for Sophie Cunningham, who has her own history of stirring controversy. What's changed isn't just frustration over one or two plays, it's growing backlash against gray area officiating that only steps in after the fact. Instead of calling things in real time, tension fills the arena every time Mabry or JC Sheldon gets near Caitlin Clark. The crowd noise rises, and the pressure on the ref skyrockets. Either they make a clear call in the moment, or they risk being called out afterward. And once again, the black and gold shirts, the referees, seem powerless to stop the chaos before it erupts.
Marina Mabrey is a crash out artist. Like, there's literally this page, if you guys haven't seen, called Women Who... And 90% of what they do...
Now comes the bigger question. When a superstar like Caitlin Clark and her teammate Sophie Cunningham are put at risk in the middle of a game, but the league only steps in after the cameras flash and social media blows up, what does that say about the WNBA's trust in its officials? When controversial fouls keep piling up and the league's responses feel more like damage control than real decisions, we're not just losing calls, we're losing legitimacy.
Marina Mabrey will find any excuse to knock someone on the ground or, like, go at somebody. We saw that when she was with the Sky. We'll see that with the Sun. We've seen that when she was with the Wings. Like, that's Marina Mabrey. That is Marina Mabrey.
That's Marina Mabrey at the center of it all, and the league needs to draw a line. both literally and figuratively. If live officiating doesn't make the right call, then video review should step in immediately, not hours later. If achieved, league can find and upgrade fouls after the game. It should also be able to enforce tougher penalties in real time when it truly matters. That's the only way to protect player safety, maintain competitive fairness, and support Caitlin Clark's remarkable rise.
Mabrey to a flagrant 2, which honestly, she should have just been ejected from the game. This is what happened last season with Kennedy Carter when her cheap shot on Caitlin wasn't addressed in the moment. I think they're trying to address that now. So the flagrant 2 has been issued. Sophie Cunningham has been issued another fine on top of her flagrant 2, but is it too little too late?
This situation reminds me of circuit breaker rules in other sports. Step over the line and you're out immediately. Delay the penalty and it loses all meaning. But when enforcement is inconsistent, reactive, and unclear, the whole system gets turned upside down. Fans, sponsors, and even rookies start asking, what or who is really being protected by these rules? As the dust settles from the Mabrey shove incident, we still don't have real answers. Referee Ashley Gloss said the foul didn't qualify for an ejection. The WNBA disagreed, but only after days of growing outrage. Now Clark and Sophie carry the weight of in-game retribution, while clear officiating standards remain missing. And that's the real problem. We need consistent rules, immediate accountability, and clarity from the WNBA office yesterday, not tomorrow. If not, we'll keep seeing more fights, more post-game statements, and more tension. Because social media outrage isn't a rulebook, it's a reaction. And even reactions fade over time. The question is, will the WNBA act before the next spotlight game or keep chasing headlines after the buzzer? Do you think the league should strictly enforce its rules and suspend Mabrey? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.